calm down.
What's going on?
Guys, listen, don't hate me. Don't get in my Do not get in my This is my husband. I brought him here. None of y'all brought him. None of you
Are
knew.
we watching 90 Day Fiance or the Bad Girls Club?
Bitch.
You know?
Angela is ready to jump on anyone that looks at Michael's direction. If her mission is to prove that Michael is the problem and that she's the innocent one, she's failing miserably. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After, the Tell-All Part 2. You guys, this one was a lot. If Part 1 was all over the place, this one was especially all over the place. It was hard to organize my thoughts, but it was also hard to just like control my feelings. I was yelling at my TV. You guys were probably as well. Trigger warning for anyone that has been in a DV relationship. This one is ugly, and it's one of those moments where I'm like, I wish that this was scripted. This was not scripted. This was bad. It's hard to put a timestamp because, again, all of the storylines are mixed in this episode. If you find that there's a part that you don't feel comfortable with, which will likely be with Michael and Angela, please skip ahead. Take care of yourself. You do not have to intake this information if you don't need to. But thank you for being here. Before we get into the new episode, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, let's wrap up Jasmine and Gino really fast. Gino kind of sort of admits Jasmine's claim that he has been watching his ex's videos. He says that he doesn't watch, porn all the time. Jasmine again is like, yes, you do. So again, everyone starts being like, look at your wife. You need to make a porn video with her. There's your fantasy. That's your dream girl. And he's like, the whole time, he's like, I don't think so. And Angela, foreshadowing, you would think that she would have a little wisdom for herself. She's like, someone's gonna come along and steal her from you. For some reason, everyone is on Team Jasmine. I don't think that there's a team to choose from, and they're both at fault for where they are, but I don't think that Jasmine should be getting off this easily, and she is. And so since everyone is on her side, she's pushing through this agenda that she actually isn't the problem in their sex life, and that Gino is using her fights as an excuse, and that he actually would rather just watch porn. And then she goes on to again push her agenda that he's controlling, saying that he's really jealous, so jealous that he doesn't want her to use toys. Let's say that that is true, that he has told her, you can't use anything to please yourself. Gino, on what grounds? You won't please your wife, and so now you're making rules on how she can please herself? If you're not doing the job, you don't have a say on how she does it. But now, do I believe that he said that? I don't know. I also find it just funny, like the things that Jasmine is saying, I think they're very intentional, they're very strategic. She's laying the groundwork for her exit from this relationship. No one can tell me different. You can disagree, but I just think that it's very specific, the things that she's saying. She's like, I feel like I'm a single woman that's married. If Gino were to say that, it would be World War III. And allegedly, she's with someone else, so I just feel like all of this was like, I'm gonna leave him soon, and I need to be able to excuse my actions. Separating what we know in the real world, what we know in their marriage as it's being shown right now, it's bad. Like I've been saying, they're both at fault, but they have to find a solution. And I've said that I think that Gino is at the point where he just wants to fight back, but he's not fighting for the relationship. Because Jasmine is like, I refuse to stay in a sexless marriage. And I understand that he has given his terms that she should stop fighting. But conflict is natural just in general. And I'm wondering if he is just like any little thing that she says, oh, you're fighting, because that is also possible. They just need to be working towards something. And Messy Sean, asks Jasmine if she has like a timeline in her mind. And Jasmine is like, yeah, I have a short window in my mind. If we don't get help, if we don't take steps to remedy this, I'm going to have to leave Gino. And so Gino is pissed, right? Because he's like, nobody's on my side, including my cousins. And he also is like, how are we supposed to attempt to work at something if she won't even share a bed with me? Which I agree, but I feel like, she doesn't want to share a bed because you're not doing anything. But that's also a lot of pressure. It's the issues go round and round, right? And so the consensus, just to wrap up their segment, people are like, if you're unhappy, if you don't feel like you're gonna work towards this, then let her go. And I do agree. If you're gonna work at something, just don't sit there and complain, because it is coming off like he's trying to punish her, but in punishing her, he's also leading a miserable life. So yeah, so before they get on the bus to get to the house, like I said, Gino was pissed, but Jasmine takes him aside and she's like, let's remove the pressure of sex. Let's go back to sharing a bed like a regular couple, and let's start with dates. And this is like bare minimum-ish, but I'm glad that they're talking, and Gino seems pleased with that. He's like, okay, like we're making advancements. Everybody goes back to the house. So now it's where it gets a bit fuzzy because it's everybody all at once, and it's at the house. So I'm breaking it down between the house, backstage, and then back on set day 2, okay? So starting with the house, TLC, Sharp Entertainment, has supplied so much alcohol. This is not a safe environment because it goes quickly from giggling to uproar. And because Sharp Entertainment loves mess, guess who's also coming to the house? Jason. Jason, Liz, and Ed under one roof. A mess. And you can tell that Ed is intimidated by Jason. He's like, yeah, he's a pretty boy. And like, you could tell that he's seething. I also think that it's funny that in part 1, before he knew that she had moved on, Ed was like, I want them to see a new side of me in this tell-all. And then he went back to his same antics. Almost like his whole rebrand is fraudulent. Of course, Ed is giving his little 2-piece to anyone that would hear. He's like, you know, it's fine. Like, I give him 6 months before he's at a bar crying, drinking with me. And it's like this fantasy that he's created, like Liz can't do better than him. Angela and Michael joined the mansion and they're taking a look at the place. Oh my God, there's a very weird moment between Gino and Jasmine and the group. So Gino comes into this space and for some reason he feels like he has to like make an announcement to people that him and Jasmine made some progress in a conversation. It was very frustrating. I think that he's like, these people think I'm the problem, so I got, gotta give them an update. But I also feel like they're determined to be like, screw your wife and not really listening to your reasons. So you don't owe them anything. Because Patrick is still judging him, being like, you're a weird man. But Rob is there, and for some reason, Rob is being the voice of reason so far in these tell-alls. And Rob is like, yeah, I understand. I would have been left if I was in your situation. And before he can continue, in comes Jasmine, bringing Gino a drink, which is fine. But it's the way that she's like doing it. I have to highlight that Jasmine is a really strange human to me. It's really hard to figure her out because in separation from Gino, I enjoy her. She seems like a fun girl to be around. But when it's with Gino, the dynamics are weird. When she's not like overperforming, she's being Cruella de Vil. So it's really hard to gauge her. She brings Gino a drink and it's like, I don't know if it's the pageant, but she's acting like so like coy and like she's like this shy woman and she just has this evil husband. Like she's really playing that up. It's very strange. And then for some reason, this crew is like, kiss, kiss, kiss. And these two act like they've never kissed before. You would think that this is like their awkward second date.
We go, y'all, don't do that. Don't do that.
What is wrong with you? Like, I mean, this highlights just how checked out they are from each other physically. I just can't wrap my head around that this lady that's acting all shy was the same lady that was deep-throating his toes just a few episodes ago. It was wild. Then they pivot to Michael. Michael is with Loren and Patrick in the kitchen. And, you know, they're like, sussing it out, how he's feeling about America. And Loren is like, do you really love Angela? Do you really? And Michael's like, yeah, I love her. And she's like, she just wants affection. Like, give her more touch. Go over there and tell her, I'm so happy that I'm here to be with you. And simultaneously, they pivot to Angela, and Angela is like, where's Michael? You see, he neglects me. I'm here. Why isn't he here with his wife? God forbid this man speaks to anyone. God forbid he's away from her for 2 seconds. She's going off to Manuel about, I think it was Manuel, about how he's making everyone think that he's the nice guy, but he's not nice. You see how he leaves me? Mind you, when Michael's in the kitchen being questioned by Patrick and Loren, he's not saying not a bad thing. That Michael is actually holding back. And so he's getting advice to, do more for his wife. And he's like, you know what? You're right. He goes out. He goes to find Angela. And so as he's walking, they pan back to her. Again, it's a lot of back and forth. And she's like, why isn't he here with me? And the way she talks about him is like she has him on a leash and he's gone too far off his leash. And as she's yelling, she's like, I don't want to ruin these people's night, but do you see what he does to me? She takes no accountability for her own actions. She has zero emotional regulation. This is someone's grandmother. But yeah, she's pissed that he has the nerve to mingle. Like, these are his cast members. These have been his co-workers for 8 years, and this is the first time that he has ever met any of them. They have a lot to catch up on. This is probably the first people that he's been able to interact with aside from her family, and she's acting like it's a crime. And I understand that when you're anxious and you have issues with your partner, it's hard not to think about it, right? This is a situation where you're supposed to mingle. Can your problems not be at the forefront for an hour? Give him an hour. But grace does not exist for Michael. I feel like she wanted to bring him to America just to be by her side, do the things that she wants. He doesn't get to have autonomy and he doesn't get to be a human being, And he comes into the room and she goes from 0 to 100, you guys.
We're in big and you know this, and you're in there laughing with guys, girls, and you're walking around like nothing's wrong, Michael. There is a problem here.
Y'all think I'm crazy, but you don't know what I deal with this man. And everyone is trying to calm her down, trying to be a voice of reason. Loren is like, oh my God, he was away because I pulled him aside. It's on me. We were actually talking about you. And she's like, no, it's not your fault. It's him. Because why isn't he here giving me affection? Do you see what he does to me? And I'm like, I can't compute. I just don't understand what she was expecting. And again, everyone is trying to get a word in and she is bulldozing over everyone.
You calm down.
What's going on? Guys, listen, don't hate me. Don't get in my Do not get in my I done told you don't get in my man.
Loren starts crying because she feels so guilty that she caused this and she didn't. They were just having a nice conversation about Angela and she just erupted. Everyone looks just terrified. Ashley's like, she has ruined the feng shui. She has taken the air out of this room. This is my worst nightmare, being in a house with Angela.
Her energy is messing with the juju of the whole house.
Michael is so numb to this that he's just taking it. He's just like, that's my wife. And his capacity for humiliation needs to be studied because I just don't understand how he was able to hold it together. And we see Kobe trying to check in on Michael because they're both chill African dudes. And Kobe is also with a strong American woman, but Emily would never disrespect Kobe that way. Ever. She's bossy, she's whatever, you can say whatever. She would never, one, humiliate him in front of other people. I feel like she'd eat him alive in private. but not to this extent because she does respect him. She does value him. But I think Angela views Michael, I think she views it as love, but it's actually possession. And so Michael, of course, is rationalizing, still defending his wife, even after the scene that she just made. He's like, you know, I have cheated in the past, I have lied to her, but she brings it up every single time. It's like we can't move on. And I'm like, Michael, you did your dirt, you paid for your crimes. I feel like it's what I've said. If you're not someone that can get over cheating, do not act like you can. But if you're going to forgive someone for cheating, you have to make a choice to move on. Carrying it over for like 2 years is not it. It's not healthy. And she keeps yelling all over the place that she regrets bringing him here. And I'm just like, I don't feel sorry for you. You were together for 8 years. You had the same doubts for 8 years. He's here. Deal with it or don't, right? So then they pan to the whole crew and everyone's trying to rehash the events because it was crazy. So they're trying to piece the timeline together as to how she went from 0 to 100. Liz is sharing her piece, but before she can, Big Ed comes in and interrupts the whole thing. And he's like, actually, I was called a liar earlier, so I need to prove that I was not. And Ashley's like, we're talking about the taco pasta again. Because this man has shrimp D energy and can't help himself and is a little nuisance and just needs to have the attention on him even when he's wrong. So like they were at the tell-all hours ago. And now he's like, yeah, I'm going to call up my sister so she can tell you everything that happened. And I love that everyone was like, particularly Jason, he was like, yeah, you're going to call her after you prepped her. And I agree. How convenient that you're calling your sister hours later. Because you could have called her on the tell-all, but you didn't. You needed some time to give her your piece. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The women in Ed's life are enablers. They get his sister on the phone and she isn't saying that Liz is yelling. She was saying, well, her attitude that night was exactly how it is right now. Liz was not yelling in that moment. Was she giving him attitude? Yes, because she was being antagonized, but she was not yelling. And I love that Liz was like, she's a Christian, his sister's a Christian woman, so she can't lie. And everyone's like, Ed, like, you're clearly harping on this. Let's move on. And he was like, yeah, I need to be with someone classy anyway. And Jason got in his face because Jason was like, you're going to stop disrespecting my girl. Ed is on his high horse. And I'm just like, you started this. And you came here to continue an argument that ended hours ago. Like, you are pathetic. They disperse and they're back at the bar in the kitchen. And I was so angry at Ashley because she was at the kitchen sympathizing with Ed, being like, oh, you must be in such a hard position right now. And I would hate to be in the same space as my ex and their new partner. But also, what grounds would Big Ed have to stand on with the way that he treated Liz the entirety of their relationship, but also with the way that he ended their engagement? His actions say, I don't care about you. So whatever she does, F his feelings. That's how I feel. So I didn't appreciate Ashley empathizing with Big Ed. I don't know if this was a ploy to get extra screen time. I just was not a fan of this moment because it gives him more opportunity to spew lies. Ed continues to say that Liz was lying, and he's saying that he's so happy that they're not together, that she was after his money anyway, and that he knows it. Sir, what money? You literally had no money, which is why y'all were being real estate agents. Like, he keeps saying things and he can't back it up. And that's why I'm like, oh God, like there's all this animosity and there's all this alcohol. Because at this point, Liz passes by and they're all just throwing jabs at each other. Of course, Liz has the greatest weapon, a tall boyfriend. So she's like, oh, I'm so happy that I can finally look up at someone. And Ed is like,
you're not my problem anymore.
I am so happy I can mentally and physically look up to someone for the first time in my life.
You have sloppy sex.
What?
Sloppy?
She walks off happily with her man, And Ed has all this venom left inside of him, so that when Angela comes by, he's like, you should be with someone that appreciates you. I can't believe you're with Michael. He's a scammer. And in passes by Michael, and he again is trying to like have some time with Angela. And I wish that Michael would have called out Big Ed's ass for spewing that about him. But instead, he can't say anything because Angela is like, we're talking. Basically like shooing him away. Michael cannot win. And again, this is a situation where she's not defending her husband. She's letting this gremlin shit talk him. There's a quick scene with Jason and Manuel bonding, and Jason basically is like, I'm not gonna let anyone like mess with Liz. It's really cute. But then they pan back to Angela. And Angela is at this angle where she can see Michael smiling with Manuel. And she's seated with Big Ed, and she's like, look at him, smiling. How dare he? So then she starts yelling from the bar, and he's by the pool area. And she's like, can you believe him? His audacity to smile after the things that he said to my daughter in her own house. Basically, she claims that Michael said that women are stupid. And I have a feeling that that's not what he said. I feel like there's context that we are missing. If that was the case, I'd be like, Michael, I think that you are stupid for the decisions that you've made. But I just have a feeling that there's something missing in that sentence. And I say that because we have witnessed her completely misconstruing the things that he says. I mean, remember when she thought his cable box was a bag of money? She's not a reliable narrator. You know what I mean? So she's yelling at him about this, and he says, I just said my opinion. I would love to know again the full context of it. But ultimately, she like berates him and is like, leave, leave. And he does walk off. So after she shoos him away, she chases after him. So he's at the top of the stairs, she's at the bottom of it, and they're having a yelling match. And he talks back to her one too many times, and she runs up the stairs like Sonic the Hedgehog.
You know. So what is it?
Let me tell you something. You better get your ass and get your.
You
want us to get fucked? Duck up, duck up, duck up.
Run!
You got the
Run, brother!
duck up. Get your ass.
Don't throw Michael.
Get your and go now. Go.
This is the part, you guys, that at this point, I was like shaking with like fury. She gets in his face. His back is on the railing of the staircase. They're in this huge mansion, okay? She gets in his face and she's like, back up. Back up where? To the bottom of it? Like, what are you doing right now? She's like, you need to leave. This is my house. Ma'am, this is not your house. And everyone is downstairs watching this happen, being like, Michael, run. And she's like, you need to leave. And he walks off to the room. And you guys, when I saw this scene, I was like, you know what? I think that he was too nice in leaving 2-3 months after he was here. He should have left straight from the airport. She really thinks that she's the queen of this. And it's almost like she needs to be reminded that the premise of this show is that you're with a foreigner. So wouldn't Michael really be the star of this show? You're on the show because of him. So you trying to shoo him away is a choice. So he ends up going to the room. She ends up going outside to chain smoke I don't know how many boxes of cigarettes. The next section is with Liz and Ed. So Liz is talking to the girls, and she's doing that thing that I called in part 1. It's very easy to seem like a united front when Big Ed is the enemy. And I think that I don't disagree that she's happy in this new relationship, but I think she's also like putting on a show. And I get it. She's like, these people have been seeing me cry tell-all after tell-all. I need to like really show off that I am like so much happier. But it's coming off a little insincere because she's telling the girls, oh, everything is better in my relationship, everything. Which leads Jasmine to be like, I have questions about the logistics of how Schmexy time went down with Big Ed, because the way he shaped, how did that happen? And I was like, Jasmine. But Liz basically says, I was always on top, so that's why it didn't make sense to me that he was the one that was always tired. Ooh. And then in comes Jason, and like they're like making out like high schoolers, and he's like, let's go to sleep. And she's like, we're not going to sleep. And he carries her off, and it's this whole thing. She's really milking this happiness, and I'm not mad at it. I would believe her still if she toned it down a little bit. But then we go to Big Ed in the kitchen, and him and Patrick are having a disgusting conversation because Ed is like, yeah, you know, see, this is why I think foreign women are just better. They show appreciation more. And Patrick is like, yeah, that's why I learned that lesson when I was 29. I'm not doing this shit. And this is the moment where simultaneously Liz passes by with Jason when they're going to bed. And Ed is looking at it in disgust. Patrick is like covering his face, like joking around. And Ed is like, it's fine, it's fine. She's old anyway. And everyone's like, old? I got undertones of him like trying to talk about her body. Like it was really disgusting. But Patrick was like, oh yeah, I know what he means. Like it's like sloppy seconds. He's been there, done that. And that's just such a disgusting way to talk about women, period. But also about someone that you were engaged to, that you supposedly love and cherish. There is no redemption arc for this man because he shows his true colors at every turn. You see a quick scene with Alexi and Angela. She's outside chain smoking. He goes to check in on her. And he basically tells her in this conversation, listen, he's either like, you can deal with it and be in bliss and just ignore all the red flags like you've been doing, or you can just move on. But like, this isn't healthy. And she's like, you're so right. It's my fault for accepting this. Girl, you are not a victim. Moving on. We move on to Michael. Rob comes in to check in on him because, again, Rob is concerned. And Rob is trying to instill some strength into Michael. He's like, man, I don't know how you experience love in this relationship. You're walking on eggshells. And so Michael, like a true victim, is blaming himself. Again, I'm highlighting that Michael is not ish-talking Angela at any moment. You can tell that he's scared to say anything because she is going to watch this back, you know? So he's like, you know, like I've done my stuff in the past. I've cheated. I've online cheated. And you could tell that Rob was like triggered by this because he's in trouble for the same things. But Rob ultimately says the same thing that we're all saying. Like she keeps blowing up and he doesn't get a chance to like defend himself. And Rob is really laying it thick like this is a problem. And you could see Michael really thinking about his word choices. And in comes Angela. She barges in, and I don't think that she heard the things that Rob was saying because she comes in and immediately pivots to Michael. She's like, I see what you're doing. And I think she thinks that Michael is trying to like paint a picture. And that's the complete opposite of what's been happening in this conversation. It's really unfortunate that every time someone tries to have a minute with Michael, she just starts barking at him. It's really alarming, and it's so obvious that she's trying to isolate him, and that is what abusers do. So this is a huge problem. So now we're backstage, day 2. Again, for some reason, Jasmine and Gino keep giving updates. Jasmine is like, we slept in the same room, but not the same bed. I don't care. Next, they're in the glam room. It's Jasmine, Loren, Liz, and Big Ed all at the same time. So Loren is like, so Big Ed, do I look like a bottom feeder? And Ed makes it clear that he cannot wait for her segment because he wants to rip her a new one. If you guys are new to this, these two hate each other. They've had beef. We're on a press run for the show, and the interviewers asked them about each other, and they both said horrible things, but they don't like each other. It's as expected. And so Ed is a gremlin who just doesn't know like when too far is too far because he is a small man also on the inside. Like the way that he comes at people is just very telling of his own insecurities. But Loren feels away because she's like, that is not who I am. Like, how dare you call me that? And I totally get it. But the whole time, Ed is basically making it seem like she came at him, and so he's just retaliating, which is not, I don't think is the case. But then in comes Jasmine, instigating the situation. She's like, well, when we were on the bus, Big Ed said that your husband must hate being married to you because you are just the worst. And Ed is like, yeah, you're a chauvinist. You could tell he just learned that word. It was so funny because Jasmine literally stepped into the frame just to drop that and was like, okay, bye. Then they go pan to Kobe. Kobe's walking his way to say hi to Michael and Angela, try to talk some sense, put some words of wisdom. He comes in and he's like, Angela, you're such a sweet woman. And I'm like, Kobe, don't lie. And Kobe can't even get his second sentence in because this woman starts yelling at Michael. Yelling. Mind you guys, they're probably here like at 7, 8 a.m. to start glam for the shoot day. Everyone looks like they haven't even had their coffee yet. Can you imagine just hearing Angela yell like this?
You're a liar. And they just feel like I'm crazy because their wives and their situation ain't never been as bad as ours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Why you shouting?
All right, because I pay taxes, mother. Something you ain't paid, bitch.
I mean, at this level, I mean, I don't know what to
There
say,
is no
but
fixing this.
He treats him like he's nothing. She called him a bitch left and right. She doesn't respect him. She doesn't view him as a man, as anything. And Kobe's like, you know, you guys can maybe get ahead if you let him talk. And she's like, I've let him talk for 7 years. I beg to differ. Obviously, everyone is shook watching her erupt out of nowhere. And someone was like, she's going to give herself a heart attack.
She's gonna give herself a heart attack.
But she ends up walking off again to chain smoke another set of cigarettes. Kobe's like, well, I tried. And Michael is like, that's why I don't speak. I don't say anything when my wife goes off. I just stay silent. And that's not okay. So Michael ends up finding Angela. He goes outside and she sees him coming her way and she's like, oh, someone sent you? Is that why you're here? And he's like, no, like you're my wife. And before he can continue, she just ends up walking off. She doesn't want to hear it. She just wants to be a mouthpiece. It's so aggravating. But to end the backstage scene on a lighter note, they're in the green room all glammed up. Gino is seated there, Ashley is seated there, Manuel is seated there, and Alexi. Manuel leans over Ashley and is like, so Gino, you watch corn, right? What kind of corn do you watch? And I think that Gino thought that he was being set up because Gino's like, what kind do you watch? What kind do you like? And then Ashley's like, I actually watch more than him. And it became like a lighthearted moment. But you could tell that Gino was like, I'm not going to say too much because I'm already being called an addict. Alexi's like looking away like he doesn't want to be part of the conversation. It was hilarious. Anyway, now we're moving on to the set. Messy Sean asks for a recap on how things went at the mansion, like she didn't already know. They go over the whole Ed and Loren thing, and Ed fixed his mouth to say that he expected an apology from Loren. Like he deserves one. He kept going on and on about how she wouldn't say those things to his face, and she's like, I have been telling you to your face that I don't like you, but sure, Bob, let me get up. And she goes right to his face, and she's like, I do not like you. I loathe you. You are despicable. The way you talk to women is despicable. You're a gremlin. That was me. She didn't say that. But I love it that she was like, I'm not afraid of you. You are nothing.
Hey, Ed, I think you are a bully. I think you are not nice to people. I think you're not nice to women.
I think you're a
and that's
chauvinist.
it.
And I think you're a chauvinist.
Yeah, there's that. And speaking of scum of the earth, this whole time Michael and Angela hadn't been on set with everyone. Everyone's assuming that they're not going to be back. And they kind of give Sean a recap of how wild things were at the house. Love that Kobe was like, you know, I really do hope that Michael gets an opportunity to share his piece as he wasn't able to at the house. And Ashley was like, yeah, it's clear that Angela doesn't want him to talk to any of us. And Sean was like, yeah, you think so? And right there, Michael and Angela stepped into the stage, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to make Ashley a target because I know Angela heard that. But anyway, now we enter the Kobe and Emily section. They're having the third baby. Emily's talking about, I would love to have 2 more. And in my brain, I was like, girl, I hope you don't have those kids under your parents' roof. And that's when they shared the news that they actually moved to their new home a few months ago. Which is great because that means Kobe actually kept his promise that he is not having this third kid under their roof because Emily's going to pop any minute now. While the transition has been hard for the kiddos especially, they live close by, they can always visit. They bring out her parents, and her parents look like they're on cloud 9. They have their house back. They don't miss these messy adults in their home. They can live their life now. It's great. We have this beautiful moment where Kobe expresses appreciation for her family. Honestly, seems like the dream son-in-law. He just shows so much appreciation. He doesn't take anything for granted, unlike Emily. And they do touch on that a little bit. The fact that Emily feels like sometimes he doesn't take her side. He's on her parents' side. But he says that in his culture, you don't speak to your elders, your parents, with an attitude, a tone, and we've seen that Emily can kind of be a brat. So they have some differences, but overall, I feel like they're a happy family. But it's a beautiful moment. Kobe starts crying, the parents start crying. All of a sudden, everybody's crying. But the wholesome moment doesn't last long because they bring in messy Valerie. And Valerie's like, yeah, you know, me and Kobe are not as close anymore because he has problems ever since he's married this white woman. And Angela's like, a white woman? Triggered. And it's funny because the woman that Valerie is describing, the woman that he would hate to have for Kobe, is Angela. So if anyone should feel attacked, it's Angela because he's calling you out. Emily is rated G compared to Angela. If Kobe would have been married to Angela, which would have never happened, but if that was the case, Valerie would have exiled Angela with the quickness. So Ashley tries to defend Valerie, being like, he doesn't mean to be offensive. What he means is this. And before she can continue, Angela's like, I'm talking to him. And you can tell that one, Angela is mad at Ashley because she heard what she was saying, but also because she's a Black woman and she feels like Black women are the enemy. I do believe that Angela feels that way because the women that Michael has cheated on her with have been Black women. Ashley's heart was in the right place, but I do believe that Valerie does intend to offend. His intention was to make Emily seem like rowdy and be like, see, that's why you shouldn't be married to her. But Emily kept her cool. Emily was just smiling through it. She's too tired to fight. She's pregnant. Her husband is there with her. Valerie, goodbye. They get to talking about how much culture the kids are exposed to. When Emily says that, while she understands Valerie's concerns, Kobe is a very active father and he tries to teach them about their culture as much as possible. He could probably do better in the language department, but he's active. It threw me off a little bit that Kobe was like, I wish that she would act more like a Cameroonian woman, because I'm like, sir, that ship has sailed. You wanted a Cameroonian woman, you should have been with one. We have this whole disagreement about what the name of the third kid should be, because Kobe wanted to name it after Valerie's family name. His family raised him, and so like he just always wanted to name one of his kids after it. Emily's like, no, I don't want to because it feels off to name my kid after a family that doesn't like me, particularly Valerie. Spoiler alert, they do end up naming the kid Atem, which is Valerie's last name. So like, we don't have to keep talking about this. What I do want to talk about is that they rehashed the whole ex-girlfriend drama, which Valerie was the one that stirred up. And I love that they played the clip of when Valerie tells Emily that. Because when Emily had approached Kobe with this, Kobe was like, Valerie would never say that to you. That's a lie. You're starting trouble. So I love that they replayed it in his face. And Emily was like, see? So they're getting at Kobe because he left things open-ended with his ex-girlfriend. And I feel like that, unfortunately, is common. That wasn't the alarming thing for me. The alarming thing for me was that Kobe was still sending her money. You can't say that a chapter is closed if you're still sending money. That sounds very active to me. I also want to highlight that they're talking about this all still in front of her parents. And I just feel like that's way too much information for your parents to have. Yeah. So they're having this conversation. I'm like, Kobe, that's messy. But everyone keeps harping on the fact that, like, wow, you still had things open when you met Emily. I'm like, Emily was a one-night stand. And Kobe says it in a very direct way. This was a one-night stand. He didn't think that anything would come of it. Of course he wasn't in love with her. Like, of course he still had things open. Like, but the truth of the matter is, when he proposed to Emily, he was done. He was done with everyone else. So it doesn't matter. Why are we still having this conversation? I feel like they're really trying to stretch this and make him look like the bad guy because there isn't any real drama in their segments. And it's very frustrating because it's unnecessary. So the last 10 minutes of the tell-all was just on Michael and Angela. I remember looking at the clock and being like, oh, they're going to leave us on a cliffhanger, aren't they? And so Sean asks him what his impression of America has been. And he's like, oh my God, it's been great. It's been nice being with my wife. I love that thing. What's the thing that I like? Angela's next to him with the saltiest face. And when he's like, what is the thing that I like to eat? She's like, chicken nuggets. And he's like, yeah, chicken nuggets. For some reason, Sean is like, what are the quirks that you've learned about each other now that you're living with each other full time? And Angela, who aims to humiliate, is like, well, I know that his wet dreams are real. Michael looks like he wants to dig a hole and never come out. He's so embarrassed. They ask her how he's doing with the grandkids, and she gets emotional. And she's like, he's great with the kids. That's the one thing that he's good at. And you could see that it pains her to say something positive about him, but she can't lie about those grandkids. Those are her weakness. And from talking about the kids, Sean makes the craziest pivot to talk about their intimacy. A lot of questions have been about intimacy, and it feels a bit invasive to me. But Sean is like, yeah, I hear that you guys haven't really been intimate, which is crazy because when we met you, you said you guys had sex like 37 times the first week. And Angela's like, yeah, 37 times, but we haven't been intimate since he's been here. Michael basically has the same report as Gino. He's like, she makes me feel small. She doesn't make me feel good. She's always yelling. And before he can continue his response, she swallows him whole in front of everybody. Everybody's like,
She says all sorts of things to me. All those things goes down to me. I am human. I have emotion as well. You can't be talking to me anyhow as if I'm a baby. I'll be 36 in a few weeks. I am your husband, for Christ's sake. All those things, all those things. Said this thing
You
before.
cheated and told that bitch you would come to goddamn America and get the visa and you'll handle me. So how do you think I'm supposed to forget that?
they bring out SKYLAH and they ask her what it's been like to have Michael in the home. And she's like, Mama is miserable. Your mother has been miserable. She's miserable by design. And SKYLAH continues saying that Michael kind of like avoids Angela at all costs. He's always like in a different room at the house. And Angela's like, yeah, can you believe that? I have to go to restaurants by myself. We just saw you like 2 episodes ago spitting at him at a restaurant. And you're surprised that he doesn't want to go out with you? Wouldn't you avoid Angela at all costs? That man has not known peace for almost a decade. And part 3 is only going to be crazier for him because that's when they're going to bring out the private detective. So it's going to be a mess. You guys, that's enough yapping from me. I have to go to work. This has been crazy. It's only going to get crazier. I would love to know your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.